Hello there. In a previous video, we looked at some of the web services security functionalities available in WSO2 Micro Integrator. So we just discussed like 15 or 16 scenarios that WSO2 Micro Integrator supports. In this video, we will look at maybe two scenarios to start with and see how we can apply WS security for some of the proxy services that you can create in WSO2 Micro Integrator. So for the video purpose, I have already started the dashboard as well as the micro integrator, and the micro integrator seems to be connected. So if you're looking at how to configure the dashboard with the micro integrator with a relational database management system as a user store, all that information had been covered in a previous video as well, which you will be able to see in a playlist which I'll add as part of subsequent videos that you can follow along at the end of this video. It might appear any time, so keep note of that as well. So now it is started. So now I have these two projects in the micro integrator integration studio. So let's look at this project called sample soap signing client. Not suitable name for the project, but it just will serve my purpose for this demonstration. So I have a proxy service created already here, and let's say this username token proxy. So that's the proxy that I'm trying to look at. So this proxy doesn't do much actually, so it's gonna create a payload called an XML with username token and respond back. But to call this proxy service, I want to make it more secure. So I kept the example very simple so that you can focus on the meat of this video actually. So which is to demonstrate the security. For security, if you just double click on this particular proxy icon, you will see a number of settings that appear. If you just go below, you will see various different sections to configure basic information, endpoint details, false sequence, in sequence, out sequence, and so forth. And but if you look at the end, you see something called security. You just have to enable it and then add, and then you have to select a policy file for various different scenarios. Now in the previous video we looked at 16 different scenarios, and let's say for example username token scenario, where this proxy service will expect the client to send a username and a password for along with the payload in a specified manner as per the specification of WS security. And if that doesn't come that way, this proxy will not let that client call in. Basically it will respond back saying the user is not authorized and so forth. So let's look at that particular scenario. So I'm going to cancel it because first of all we need to see the proxy policy file which we need to add here. I have already added it previously because I had done it previously. So this is the ESB project type. To add a a policy, you need to have a registry project types. So under your main and multi-module project type, you can right click and create a registry resource project. For example, you can type in, I have added SOAP WS security reg as the name, and then you can click finish. Once you have it, so you will have something like this. And under this I already have the policy, but the way that you create that policy is right click that and click registry resource, and when you do that thing, you can select from existing template and then give it a name. For example, I have given username token policy, something like that. So for example, let's say sample policy, and I can select from the template section. You have to select WS security and then go select where you want to save, in the governance registry or configuration registry. That doesn't matter that much, so you can just leave it there. Give it a very meaningful name like WS policy, something like that. And then you if you have that resource, this XML already, you can browse it. Otherwise you can click finish. uh, Once you have done that, so I have it already, so I'm going to open that. So you will have this XML file created, and this XML file, if you just open it up, it will show in the path that you just typed in. So we chose governance registry, and under that we gave the name WS hyphen policy or underscore policy, whatever, and the XML. So this is not an editable section, so it is just a read-only section for you to view where the policy file is stored. And so the editable one is right here, so you can just double click. So when you double click, it could open up the XML, which might look like a bit complex XML. So if you just go to the design section here, you will see those different scenarios that WSO2 supports. For example, you see these 8 scenarios here, but you remember there were 16 scenarios that I described earlier. So some of those scenarios actually require a security token service. Such services are not listed down here. So these are the very common ones. So let's discuss the username and token scenario. So you can just click on that, and then you can click on the user roles in which the user should be part of. So in this case, I'm saying the user who's calling this particular service should be part of the admin role. And once you add that thing, and it's simple as that. It's and there are other information that you can configure if you really want to. And yeah, so maybe just make sure this token store class, if that is the same as this one. If not, just go and change it this way, and the role that you chose will be available as part of admin. So once you are done here, what you can do is basically you can go back to your proxy service, and in this section you can just click on add, and then click on this thing, and from your workspace you can select the registry resource type and your registry resource project and your policy file. So once you select that thing, it will become available here. And once you are done, it's that's it. So basically, so I'm done with it. So when you go to the source section, you should be able to see this policy section attached, and this is the payload that I create and respond. And to package this, of course, you need to have a composite exporter project. And once you create the exporter project from here, a composite exporter project, you can open up this POM file and select your relevant artifacts that you need to package into it. So I need to basically for this use case I only need this one, but in this scenario I have a couple of other proxy services which you don't need to worry about. And I also have selected the username token policy. So once you are done with it, just save it, and then you can export it to your running instance. For example, if you look at this one, my server is up and running, and let's log into our dashboard and see what is available there. So if I just log in, you see certain proxy services already available. And that's because this is one of my running instances. You go to the user section, you see an admin user is part of the admin group, but Oliver is not part of the admin group, and so only admin should be able to call this service that I'm trying to deploy right now. So let's go back here, and then right click and export composite archive, and select your location, and then click finished. And once you are done with it, you will be able to see your service getting deployed and your policy getting deployed, and you see this section WS security is enabled for this service. So to call this service, let's go back here and find out the proxy services. Just refresh this. Yeah, now you see username token policy, and under the username token policy you can select this WSDL and then import into a WSDL client. So I have already done that. So if you just look at this username token policy actually, so I just need to use this one, username token client. Let me open this one, and yeah, so this is the one. So I have already done this call a couple of times, and let me just remove certain sections here. So once you initially import, it will look like this. So I'm not expecting a payload in this proxy service, because you're creating the payload in the proxy and responding. So you can just send an empty request and try to call it. So but if you call it, it's not gonna let you call, because it will be expecting a for example, fail to proceed the request, error processing the post, WS handler cannot load token storage class security token store. So that has a problem there. So we need to see what's the problem there, right? And security token store class. According to this error, it says the security token store cannot be found. So that's because if you just go back to my this thing, so this one should be changed to this value for WSO2 Micro Integrator. So this is described in the documentation as well. So I need to just save this, and then possibly we need to remove. So you also see the same exception thrown here. WS handler cannot load this. So I need to possibly remove this composite application from, yeah, so I'm going to remove it. So when you remove it, it will show the C app is undeployed right now. And then let's go back and redeploy with our new change. So now replace the editor container. So I have made the change right now, and just going back and checking on my client if I have. So to make sure that you just select the updated one. Let's go back. Yeah, now it is undeployed. So let's do the deployment again. And once you do the deployment, you should see the deployment happening once again. And once that is done, we can call it again without any header information. Now you see there are no header information here, it's empty. So when I just make the call, let's see what happens now. Yeah, so now you are getting 401 unauthorized, and there seems to be some sort of a response. So that particular class is very important, so you need to make sure that you change it accordingly. So now here you see the security token could not be authenticated or authorized, because now this particular proxy expects a username token value to come in. How do you configure that in this SOAP client? Again, such WS security configurations, how you do, I have covered in a previous video, which I will again put it in the comment section and possibly in the playlist section once it comes. So for that, you can just double click on the project and go to this WS security section, and you can add a new configuration. So I have added a name called username token configuration, and then click on this, and once you click on, initially it will be empty here. So let me remove this timestamp section just to demonstrate you one thing. So when you click on this, you can add various different scenarios as specific to the WS security specification. So in this case, I need to add username and token, which I have added here. When you click on that, you can add the username and password for your client request. And yeah, so once this is done, for this username token configuration, this particular value is attached, and now we can apply that from right clicking on this pane and outgoing WSS, apply the security, and you see this section. If you just drag it on to the right, you see username admin, and the password is also admin, and this information is passed along with various other information. So if you just call this, let's see what happens. And again, now you are getting a 500 error now, and when you go into this, you see a section called missing timestamp. Now, so this is coming from the WS security specification. So according to the specification, you also need to add a timestamp section, a separate timestamp section to your outgoing client calls. So for that, again, then I will double click, go back here, click on my this thing. So then I will add timestamp section. Once I add the timestamp section, so just add some value there, let's say 120 or something. So that's just for the server to verify that client has sent this information just 120 seconds ago. And because 120 seconds is not a practical, very usually you should have something like 3 or 5 seconds, because that will also give a validation onto the server side saying this request did not come long time ago, right? And so when this information is there, let's right click and remove this initial one. Again, it goes back and apply the new one again, and now we should see the timestamp section over there. As you can see, expires, all that. And once you are done with it, you should make sure that you click the send button before 2 seconds elapse, otherwise it's gonna fail. So let's see if it's gonna pass. Voila. So in this section you get a 200 OK message, and you get the response back with your client. You see the username token which which we had in our proxy service over here. Username token proxy service. You see this value is sent back, test. So this is one scenario, and we can also look at another scenario. Let's see, I have another project here called simple soap proxy, and I have again in the proxy configuration, I have a very simple proxy service here called proxy echo service. Again, this proxy echo service is adding a log, and it's calling an echo soap endpoint, I think, which is this one. So if you just look at this one, it's doing nothing here. It's just echoing my request, and if you just go to the section, it just creates a new payload echo string response and takes the text section of my input and put it into this return value and echoing back. And that's what this particular service is doing, but I'm just proxying it through this other service. So I'm calling it and logging it back and responding it again. But again, in this section, I have security enabled. For example, I have this security section enabled, and then I have a policy. So let's see what this policy is now. So again, to add that policy, you need to create